One Piece is on break this week, and it is a well-deserved break from Oda because he delivered 4 chapters in a row for the first time since 2022, which was chapters 1050 all the way to chapters 1053. There's been a lot of stuff that has been revealed over the past few chapters, and since it's on break, we can talk about it over the next few days. But I officially want to start off with talking about Scopper Gaban and Sanji and just their roles for the story and just different implications that's going to happen both in the past and the future of the story. I mentioned them in my breakdown and review because these two, they parallel each other, and because of this there's different translations that have happened, different agendas that can be pushed, so I just wanted to discuss it. We were introduced to Scopper Gaban in the most recent chapter, which was 1139. He made his entrance by throwing his axe towards Road and Luffy's group. However, he wasn't officially introduced as Scopper Gaban until the end of the chapter once the group managed to locate Loki's key. This is really cool to see because Gaban, he was introduced all the way back in chapter 19 and we only ever got to see him in different flashbacks. So it's been 1120 chapters later and we're finally getting to see him in the current story. Now, the other reason why fans are happy because of Gaban's reveal is because, well, what happened at the end of the chapter and the gas, because this is where agenda piece thrives. As I mentioned earlier, at the end of the chapter, Luffy's group, they found the location of Loki's key. However, Gaban, he grabbed it and he challenged them to take it away from him if they can. So in the next chapter, it looks like we're going to get some iteration of either Luffy versus Gaban, Zoro versus Gaban, or Luffy and Zoro versus Gaban. If I had to pick which one I would want personally, it would probably be Zoro versus Gaban because I'm obviously a Zoro fan, and I also think that Luffy has gotten to the point where he shouldn't need to necessarily showcase his strength against individuals like this, and this is not me trying to do Gaban dirty, and very well I could be wrong and maybe I'm holding Luffy in too high of a regard because we saw what someone who was called old and slow like Garp and what he did at Hachinosu, so maybe I'm just underestimating the old heads. What's probably going to happen is we'll see Luffy and Gaban go at it briefly just as a little bit of a test, and then Gaban is just going to give Luffy the key. Speaking of old heads, we know how dominant they are in One Piece, just like a 40-year-old LeBron. People like Garp, Rayleigh, Big Mom, yes, even Big Mom, I'm going to include her. There's not a single old head in this series that was dominant during the old era that can't compete in this age. Now, I don't think that they're the strongest or anything, hence why I said compete, but they can definitely give different characters in the current era a run for their money. And heck, depending on the situation, they very well could win. Something major that happened in this chapter was the Gaban gas. Now, I do want to not take away from Gaban, but well, what was said about him based off of different translations like the Viz and the scans, they're a little bit different. One painted him as someone who was Roger's equal and could even rival Rayleigh, and then one painted him as someone who stood shoulder to shoulder with Roger and worded it as he was after Rayleigh, which is very different. For example, we know the relationship between Odin and Whitebeard and how Odin was the only man considered Whitebeard's brother, but I mean, if we look at the difference in strength, we know that Odin, even though he's strong, that we would definitely probably pick Whitebeard to be stronger than Odin. So if we look at the Viz translation, it was stated that while Roger was recuperating, Gaban fought off hundreds of pirates with just 2 axes, and after the battle, only the bald mountainside was left standing, hence why he gained the epithet, the Mountain Eater, and is known as the Pirate King's left arm. Now, Oda, why did you do Gaban so dirty with this epithet? You mean to tell me you couldn't have called him the Slayer of the Mountain, the Conqueror of Mountains, something other than Mountain Eater? Because I'm not gonna lie, it's pretty whack, it's pretty lame. But as I mentioned, he was a legendary figure who stood shoulder to shoulder with Rayleigh and Roger. Now, if you look at the scans, it's translated a little bit different because it was stated that Gaban rivaled Rayleigh, which is a big difference. Which is more accurate? I'm gonna just be 100% transparent, I'm not Japanese, so I don't necessarily know which one is right, but based off of my understanding, and I know this is probably going to be a cop-out answer, you guys don't want to hear this, but why not both? Something that stood out to me is I saw Sandman post something on Twitter where it was a similar translation about Arlong and Jinbei, where Sandman said something along the lines that it's hard to say whether or not Gaban is in the same class in terms of strength and fame, because the same wording was used for Arlong and Jinbei, and we know that there's a clear difference between the two. But if you guys have made it this far into the video and you're enjoying the concept, let me know by leaving a like, subscribing to the channel, and hitting the notification bell so you guys never miss out on a new video. I pump out different One Piece content almost each and every day. I also don't think that it's necessarily bad for there to be a pecking order amongst the three, because if you look at the two parallels, it's always going to be Roger, then Rayleigh, then Gaban, because that's clearly the order of strength between the three. And the same can be said for the monster trio. It's going to be Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji, because Luffy, he always fights the strongest opponent, then Zoro, he fights the second strongest, and Sanji, he fights the third strongest, and there's nothing wrong with that, because as the series progresses, there's going to be so many strong individuals, like so many admirals. I mean, all three of them are taking down an admiral, so like, is that really a problem? I do think that people look at strength and look at how different things is ranked, and people assume that it's a huge gap between characters when they're not. Like, yes, Luffy, he's stronger than Zoro, but if you think that Luffy's one-shotting him, then you're tripping. Same with Zoro. Zoro, he's stronger than Sanji, but it's close. It's really close. And I know I already mentioned this, but this is why I don't like necessarily doing character rankings or strength rankings, because to a certain extent that there's never going to be a list that is 100% correct. And let's just say that one character is above another. Why do people act like this person is definitively stronger? Who said that? Because I don't think there is a single person that think that Zoro is on a whole nother class than Sanji, and if they do, they're probably just trying to rage bait or agenda pushing. Same with Gaban and Rayleigh. I don't think that people don't agree that the two of them are close. I think once people realize that rankings are closer than what the actual number of the ranking says, that life would be so much easier. And what I mean by that is, let's just say Zoro's ranked number 15 and Sanji's ranked number 20. Well, the gap between that could be 1 point. Like if Zoro was rated a 90 in terms of strength and Sanji was rated an 89, that means that Zoro is just slightly stronger than Sanji. So the gap between the two in the ranking, then it doesn't really matter. But you know, the problem is that people don't know how to agree to disagree, because the moment that someone sees a character and they disagree, well, all hell breaks loose. And so as long as people can start understanding that the strength difference is not as big as they make it out to be in their head, then it probably would stop being a big deal. And that's why whenever there's the top 30 strongest list that goes around, so many YouTubers, so many content creators do it. I know BDA Law for sure, him and his group, that I think they started it and they're the most famous for it. But if you look at it, not a single one of their lists are remotely close. Like I said, just agree to disagree. If the list, like, there's going to be certain people that do some stupid stuff, but I think that there's some definitive answers that are right, and that there are some that are so close that it really shouldn't matter. And I don't know why people get so mad over it. So in the end, what does Gaban's reveal mean for Sanji? Well, I think that all the people trying to get rid of him in the monster trio and saying that Sanji is number 4, we can put that to rest. Another piece of evidence for this is how Gaban was called the left hand of Roger, and how Sanji is considered to be one of the wings of the Pirate King. And I also want to mention anything that Gaban does in this arc, specifically when it comes to hockey, then Sanji's definitely going to be able to do it. So or at least he'll be able to do it in the future. So whether it's different advanced versions, and specifically I want to mention Conquerors, because if Gaban displays anything in terms of advanced Conquerors or even regular Conquerors, that means that Sanji eventually he'll unlock that as well. And so if you look at Gaban and where he was ranked end of series, at least towards, or let me not say end of series, at least the end of their era when he was in his prime, I think that that is exactly where Sanji's going to rank. Not necessarily the specific number, but I'm talking about whether Sanji's going to be top 5, top 7, top 10, etc. Which is exciting, especially with him having the Ifrit, the Diablo, and eventually I hope that he'll even get Black Flames. I love Sanji, even though I love Zoro, I'm one of those fans that loves both of them, and I can't wait to see where he'll end up when the series is over. But thank you guys so much for watching, and let me know how you guys feel about Sanji and Gaban and just their strength in general and what they mean for the story. But don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you guys never miss out on a new video from my Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. It's on the screen and in the description below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and don't forget to unleash your potential.